George J. Zamary. George is an attorney specializing in civil defense litigation and is a partner with the Drew Law Firm. He is a graduate of Ohio University and Capital University Law School. He is a past president and current board member of the No Theater Tribe. Mr. Zamary is endorsed by the Republican Party and lives in Hyde Park. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is George Zamary, and I'd like to start off by thanking the League of Women's Voters, the Greenwich, Mark Yates, and our distinguished panel for being here tonight. Without you guys, this would not be possible. As she said in the background, my neighborhood is Hyde Park, Oakley area, and I've lived there for about a year and a half, 2 years now. Prior to that, I lived downtown. But before moving to Cincinnati, I lived in Youngstown, Ohio. That's where I was born and raised. And it's a city that when you talk about the topic of strategies and redeveloping in financial crisis, well, Youngstown's had this problem since the 1970s. The steel mills closed down, the industries left, residents left. We lost talent, we lost the creative class, and they increased taxes to try and deal with the problem. That formula did not work. When I moved to Cincinnati 11 years ago, this is a great community, great city. I recognize so many opportunities we have here. Some stats that I've heard recently that alarm me are from 2000 to 2005. We had nearly 8,000 people leave the city of Cincinnati, nearly 8,000 jobs leave the city of Cincinnati, as well as a 6.8 population loss. That was the largest of any other major city in the United States during that time. We need to focus on what our assets are in Cincinnati to rebuild it, revitalize it, and re-energize it. My plan to help revitalize during this tough economic time deals with the public safety issues that we're facing every day. Cincinnati has at times been identified as being a very dangerous neighborhood, but the reality and the perception are greatly different. What we need to do is work with police and not fight against them as city council members. We need to work to bring about resolutions to our problems and not have unions fighting with the city council. They should be working together to address the issues. We should also be focusing on organizations such as Good Guy Loitering and Citizens on Patrol to make sure that people who live in the neighborhoods are active in their community, policing, and making sure we have a safe neighborhood and community. When we look to revitalizing our economic tax base, we need to look at opportunities such put forward as the Go Cincinnati report, where we target Madisonville, Queensgate, using Port Authority to be able to revitalize brownfield properties, bring industry, and bring jobs back into the city. We're still ideally located on I-75, the Ohio River, as well as on railways. We need to look to our assets to be able to provide complementary services to groups such as General Electric, Procter & Gamble, and Toyota. We need to provide manufacturing and servicing to complement these industries, as well as provide jobs to our citizens. And lastly, when we look at fiscal responsibility during these tough economic times, we need to be very attentive to the fact that we have a $51.5 million deficit next year. We have a lot we need to do to try and improve the community and improve our budget. Last year, they knew darn well that they didn't have enough money to get through this year. It said so in the budget. You could look at page 34 where it says that they did not structurally have enough money to be able to get through this year. They blame the economic slowdown, but when you look at the city's budget, we've only had one structurally balanced budget in the last 9 years. Now, I promise not to vote for any budget that's not structurally sound, and I'll get back to that issue later during the course of this conversation, I'm sure. But my name is George Zamary. I'm seeing I'm getting the flashing light, so I ask you to remember Z for Zamary on Election Day. Thank you.
Mr. Zamary, your opinion on districts at large?
You're talking about in the event of
Voting
elections.
districts at large.
Well, given that I was in 9 different neighborhoods today alone and leaving to go to another one, it would make some sense to do that, to have people running against each other from those neighborhoods, to give people an interest in that. I think it's something to be examined and discussed. I've heard different views on it. And I think for the opportunities that we could have as running, instead of doing it in an at-large area, then you have people who are invested in their neighborhoods. And if they're not producing, then they're going to get voted out. So I'd say I'm in favor of that idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Zamary, affordable housing is a hot-button item for many neighborhoods. Yet the programs with rental subsidies are at a capacity with long waiting lists, and the only housing many Cincinnati families and seniors can afford is often unsafe and substandard. What can the city do to increase the amount of good affordable housing for its residents?
One of the options available, they are doing right now in Over the Rhine, where they're making opportunities available for people to go in and renovate and take initiatives to fix up the homes themselves through tax abatements and things of that nature. For affordable housing, if you're referring to Section 8, for instance, it's something that we need to go and take a step out of the box and also educate people in all these other neighborhoods where they're looking to be put in. Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority is trying to do what they can to make affordable housing available in good neighborhoods. So what we need to do is focus on the ability to disperse the housing around this community, so that way it's not focused into one community, so you don't have the substandard housing that occurs again and again. You need to focus on communities and having safe neighborhoods to go with it. We need to have active policing around those neighborhoods to make them safe. And as we've heard throughout all the panel members saying today, we need to have people in the community who care about what's going on in those neighborhoods. So it's an action that City Council needs to work with all the community leaders and departments to make sure we're able to provide it.
Over the past year or so, there's been an internal debate at City Hall about how to administer neighborhood funds, specifically whether it should be administered by the Community Development and Planning Department and allow them more oversight of neighborhood councils, or it should be contracted out to a private firm, as it has been in the past. But people claim that that allows for certain excesses or flaws in distributing money. What is your take on how that should be handled?
Well, I think there needs to be a communication and cooperation going on between the communities and City Hall. I mean, that's a given. You need to have that type of discussion going on so that they can say, this is where we'd like to see our money done and allocated. We have competent people at City Hall who can handle this issue. Now, if there is an opportunity for us to be able to save money just by privatizing, I don't believe that's necessarily the route to go. We need to have people who are actually vested in the community working together. And if you work for the city of Cincinnati and you're also on a community council talking about the issue, you're going to be more vested on how those things are addressed.
The next question for Mr. Zamary.
Yes.
My question is dealing with downtown and how to get more people to actually live downtown. There was a project, the Fifth and Race project, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that didn't actually go through. What is it going to take to expedite developmental projects downtown and to get more residents to want to move downtown? And what's limiting the city of Cincinnati from doing that?
Well, actually, I used to live downtown. I lived there for 6 years before getting married and moving out to the Hyde Park, Oakley area. For me, it was a matter of getting into that metropolitan living, that cosmopolitan feel. Tax abatements are being made available to people to buy the condos is a great incentive. They get 15-year tax abatement. We need to continue those programs. But we also need to continue to build up our housing stock. We need more apartments. Right now, I was talking to one apartment owner and said they're 95% occupancy. Now, we need to go and continue to have those opportunities available for people to move into the city. People who are going and look at coming to work for Procter & Gamble or other areas, they may want that type of lifestyle, so we need to accommodate that, make sure those projects are online. We need to continue to develop the Over the Rhine area with the emerging art district around the No Theater, the Ensemble Theater, and the community we have down there. So there's a lot of things we can do as a city to bring people back to the downtown and first-ring suburbs. Thank you. Again, my name is George Zamary, and I want to thank you all for being here tonight. My wife, Sarah, and I, we live with our 4-month-old daughter, and we live in the city. We care about what's going on in the city. We care about what's going on in our community. We also recognize it's outside of just where we live that the overall revitalization is needed. And that's why I put together the plan you can see on my website at georgezamary.com, where I talk about clean and safe streets. I talk about having a business-friendly environment, and I talk about being fiscally responsible. Those are all key elements, and we're going to turn the corner here and revitalize this city. Again, my name's George Zamary, and I ask you to remember Z. I'm the only one with the Z at the beginning of the name running. Remember Z for Zamary on Election Day. Thank you.